It was what I could describe as a very good relationship.
Very
Working
good, very good working relationship.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, on the 31st of December 2024, you surprise everybody within SAPS, in particular the top management, with your decision of that day. And you do this having a very good working relationship with the National Commissioner of Police. You accept that that is effectively what you did. You as it were, if I were to be metaphorical, you drop a bomb like that.
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
Why not?
The reason is in the narrative that starts from 2019 with the anticipated reintegration of the team that had been established, then extending. The narrative was always that the NPKTT, right from the beginning, is for 6 months. And then it gets extended another 6 months, then a year, then another year. But in the minds of management, in the minds of SAPS management combined, both from the ministry and from management, it is anticipated, it is expected, it is something that we should be doing, even when you now had teams functional, murder and robbery. But so, yes, maybe an element of surprise, but not exactly, because it's something that has been in the mind, has been spoken about, and it has always been something that we could do anytime, just required somebody to come forward and say, the time is this one.
Minister, the PKTT is in existence, and for the time when there would be interministerial committee meetings at which the PKTT would report, it was always praised throughout, correct?
Yes, correct.
And in fact, all of these meetings, let me say most perhaps, most of these meetings are post the one event you referred to, which is what was that report? The work study.
Oh, the work study.
Most of these meetings go into the 2000s, and it's not just one meeting. They go into the 2000s. And the work study is in 2019, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It started in 2018.
So beyond the work study that you partly rely on, the PKTT is being praised at meetings of the Interministerial Committee, correct? Correct?
Yes, correct.
Correct. Now you are suggesting that because something had happened or had been said in the work study, therefore, senior management of SAPS must have expected that you could just drop what I will continue to call this bombshell, even though they have been praised throughout, right up to the time of the last meeting of the IMC. No, they were actually expecting a disbandment. Can you seriously say that, Minister?
Come again, Chair, on the last part.
I am saying, Minister, right up to the last meeting of the IMC,
yes,
which was in the 2000s in terms of years, they were being praised.
Yes.
And this is way after the work study report.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, surely if they are being praised, Minister, they can't expect that, oh, but we're going to be terminated the very following day. So what I'm putting to you is, on what basis can you seriously contend that they must have been expecting that the PKTT would be disbanded? Just on what basis? They are being praised for what they do. On what basis could they think, despite our performance, good performance, insofar as I'm not talking about Dr. DeHaas and other people,
Yes.
And I'm by no means judging what they, Dr. DeHaas and others have said, not at all. But I'm saying, in accordance with the assessment of the IMC, they are performing very, very well. On what basis can you seriously suggest that they must have been expecting that they could be disbanded any day?
Now, firstly, on the basis that subsequent to, and I'm careful, you will correct me, just shortly after the letter of the directive, National Commissioner in the preliminary report says they have achieved what they were supposed to achieve, which is not something that I think just arose after the directive. It would have been there, noticed, and identified. That is my point number one. In other words, and secondly, I would say, on the basis that, therefore, they would have been seen even by management not only to have performed very well and commended, but have achieved what they were set up to achieve. And this is backed by stats, the deterioration, the decrease, substantive decrease, especially in 2023, of political matters, indicated by stats, down to 11, and 2024 down to 7 matters. So, and though on the basis, sheer basis of the problem or the challenge for which they were established, and then discussions in the meetings in November, there would have been that kind of understanding that they have achieved their role.
Minister, I have a serious difficulty with that answer. You see, if you were giving us that answer having consulted with them and they had said this before you took the decision, your answer would make sense. Your answer does not make sense because it's something that you get to know after you had taken that decision. So on that basis, I say, or I suggest to you, Minister, that your answer does not make sense. Would you accept that? You knew nothing about what General Masemula would say after you had taken that decision. So that means nothing insofar as your decision is concerned. Do you accept that?
But if you refer to the meetings of November 1 and 22 November, I wouldn't necessarily agree with you that it was a surprise and given all the background, because we're already now in November.
Minister, please, I don't interrupt lightly.
Okay.
But I'm not talking about what had happened before now. I am asking a question that relates to what you say happened after you had taken your decision. So I do not see how you now go back. I'm saying, your answer that General Masemula says, what the PKTT was set up to achieve had been achieved, sort of aligns with your decision. So I'm saying, That answer to my question does not make sense, because what General Masemula says post the taking of your decision could not have been a factor in your mind, or could not in any way have informed your decision, because you get to hear of it after you had taken your decision. So I suggest to you that the answer to my question does not make sense. Do you get me now? Do you get me?
I get you very clearly.
Do you agree with my suggestion to you?
I would say the answer to your question lies not necessarily on the meeting, on the preliminary report on the 22nd January. It lies in the meetings in November, before I wrote the directive, of the 1st of November, the 22nd of November, even though it was not directly a disbandment, but the answer lies there, that there is this review, there is this discussion, there is this anticipation.
Was a point, Minister, ever reached at the November meetings?
Pardon?
Was a point ever reached at the November meetings? November meetings which were about a review. Was a point ever reached at those meetings or at any other meeting before 31 December 2024 that there should be disbandment? Was such a point ever reached?
My argument, sorry.
Was such a, please, not an argument, just a response to that question, and it's a very simple one. And a yes or no could do, unless you must explain. Was such a point ever reached, Minister, that there should be disbandment?
I would say many times, Commissioner.
Before 31 December 2024?
In the sense that
when you are the minister, I'm talking about when you are the minister, let's forget about the work study.
Okay.
And I don't even agree that there was anything that there should be a disbandment even there. But anyway, the November meetings up to 31 December 2024, was a point ever reached? So I'm giving you a timeline. Was a point ever reached that the PKTT should be disbandment? Was such a point ever reached?
No, it was not. That point was never reached, except in context of what we were discussing.
You see why I'm asking you this question? Because you keep going back to the November meetings. That is why I want a categorical answer from you, whether a point was ever reached that the PKTT should be disbanded. So your answer is that no such point was ever reached.
No such point was ever reached directly, as you ask.
Well, thank you. Now, my next point. You have a very good working relationship. I'm using your exact words. Who, with the National Commissioner, Minister, who do you think was best placed to brief you, to brief you on whether or not the PKTT should be disbanded?
Now, that...
Bear in mind that you have a very good working relationship with the National Commissioner of Police, our entire police service, the South African Police Service. You have a very good working relationship with the person who heads it. Who do you think was best placed to brief you on whether the PKTT should be disbanded?
It would be, I would be informed by discussions. I would be informed by conclusions on those discussions, not necessarily to say, come and brief me on the disbandment, but if I needed a briefing. But I took it that the discussions that we had had by that time informed all of us that That is the imperative that we are getting to. Looking at organizational structures, looking at where we were going. Somebody needed to take a decision, and I took the decision at the end of the year.
Minister, I'm not sure that answers my question. I want a clear indication on a particular warm body or particular warm bodies. And I try to assist you by making a specific reference to the person that heads the police, of which you are the minister. I'm asking for a warm body or warm bodies that were best placed to advise / brief you on whether the PKTT should be disbanded. Or does the long explanation you give suggest that as you sit there, you take the view that there is not a single person that you thought would be best placed to brief you on whether the PKTT, a task team of the South African Police Service that the National Commissioner heads, should brief you? Are you saying, as you sit there, there is no such person? You were entitled to just take the decision without at all being briefed by a particular person that should have been best placed to brief you.
Commissioner, I would
So the question is two-pronged, as it were. I've not dropped the first part, which is, who do you think was best placed to brief you? And then there's the second prong, which is, as you sit there, are you suggesting that there's no such person?
No, I'm merely saying we had discussions, in other words, briefings from the National Commissioner in November, and we were agreeing that there should be a review, but it was not particularly on disbandment. And if there would have been identification of the need for a briefing before, it would have been.
Again, Minister, I'm asking about a person that would have been best placed. I'm not asking you about what was done or what was not done. Who is the person, who is the functionary that would have been best placed to brief you? That's a very simple question, Minister, please.
It is the National Commissioner.
We all know you did. We all know that you took the decision without asking him to brief you on whether the PKTT should be disbanded. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, if he was the person best placed to brief you, why did you not ask him to brief you?
Now, this decision, as I say, flows from the 29th, when I finally took the break. 29, 30, 31, I write.
29, when you finally did what?
29 December.
When you finally did what?
When I finally took the break to reflect on what we had been doing all the time. So I reflect on the 28th, I reflect on the 30th, and I say, let me issue this directive, and then we will start engaging after. And in the meantime, there will then be space for all of us to engage. If it comes to a point where we have to review the decision through the preliminary report or something else, that I would be prepared to do.
If you were open to a review, what was the big rush?
Pardon?
If you were open to a possible review which could have resulted in the reversal of the decision, what was the big rush? You say 29, 30, 31, you decide. What was the big rush? What was the big rush, Minister?
The rush
Yes.
if I could use your words, Commissioner, was to give an indication that what was supposed to have happened before and the wrongs that were going on in terms of budgeting and so on, let us discuss those at the beginning of the year, but the decision is being taken that we disband, and so that we now focus on the decision, whether we agree, all of us, on this, or we don't agree, it would be fine. I was flexible and I was open to that decision, but don't postpone taking a decision at the time that you think you need to take a decision. And I didn't see anything wrong in taking the decision, but open and flexible to whatever that could come after the engagements. There are decisions that, there are instances where decisions have been taken and you say this decision needs to be taken in the interest of the public, and then we will consult. There are such instances that have happened in government.
Minister, I still don't understand that. That explains the big rush, especially if you say that you were open to being convinced that the decision ought not to have been taken. Why start with a decision and await a possible reversal if you are convinced? It just gives me the sense that you were in a terrible rush. So my question stands, why the big rush? Why this terrible rush?
I wouldn't...
I don't understand.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a big rush. It merely was an exercise of the power to issue a directive, which I could use and then have a discussion. I didn't see anything wrong with a decision, and then we discuss.
Minister, ministers don't issue directives for directives' sake. Why could you not rather say to the National Commissioner, National Commissioner, I am minded to disband the PKTT. Please tell me why I should not do so, and only disband the PKTT if you were not satisfied with the reasons that he gave you. Why did you not do it that way? I just don't understand this inverted decision, as it were. Decision, but I may be convinced to reverse it. That doesn't make sense to me. Why did you not say to General Masemula, General, I'm minded to disband the PKTT. Give me reasons why I should not do so.
Well, I didn't think that particular way, commissioners. I thought that I would give the directive and we would sit down and have a discussion as indicated in my letter. And I didn't think that was constituting any offense or that it was in breach of any law, as it were, or in breach of the Constitution.
Minister, did you not realize that the disbandment of the PKTT would have serious implications, both in terms of the work that it performed, in terms of all the dockets that it handled, at all of the various stages at which they were? Did you not realize that? Well,
I didn't write anything about dockets.
This was not a decision like, let us buy a generator for the department, you know. It was not that, yes, that too has financial implications, but I think the implications of disbanding the PKTT would be far-reaching. Do you accept that that is so?
I didn't indicate anything about dockets because I understood that when I issued the directive, it doesn't have immediate implications on what was happening in relation to dockets, and it wouldn't have, because that would be a subject of discussion in the preliminary report and subsequent meetings that would take place. This was a mere decision to say, let's start the process of engagement, in other words.
So far as you were concerned, the effect of your decision would be down the line, as it were.
That the effect of my decision
Yes.
would be assessed properly, engaged on after the decision
So
in the preliminary
If it
report.
were to take effect, and I'm saying if it were to take effect because you say there could have been the possibility of a reversal. So if it were to take effect, it would take effect down the line. Do you accept that?
If there would be,
If your decision were to take effect, it would take effect down the line. Do you accept that?
yes, I accept that.
Yes. This takes me back to my question as to, it's not as if once you said disbanded immediately, your decision would take effect immediately. So if that were the case, I go back to my question, why did you rush and say disbanded immediately? Why did you not invite input on whether there should be a disbandment at all?
Commissioners, the letter itself, as I've indicated, clearly got written with a fair space for engagement. As I said before, it was not to say stop everything as of now, minding that it was 31st of December, and it says, let's engage through the preliminary report.
Exactly my point.
Yes.
Exactly my point. Why not engage before? Why rush to the decision to disband immediately? Exactly my point, Minister. But I will move on. Maybe let me leave my colleagues, perhaps will deal with the disbandment issue and your letter later. I have a few other questions which may not be few because of necessary follow-up questions. General Sintumule told us that there are more than 10 task teams nationally. Is there any other task team that you have disbanded?
There is a unit, not a task team, that we disbanded, the police inspectorate.
I'm talking about a task team, Minister. Is there any other task team that you have disbanded?
There is no other task team that we disbanded, because the only one that we could talk about was MPKTT, because the other ones were established by National Commissioner and they fell within his purview.
I'm not sure I understand that answer. I read your statement, Minister, to say that you can operate even in the, or put it this way, you say that this idea that you cannot play a role on operational matters is incorrect. You say so in your statement.
Yes.
And some of the operational matters would be matters that concern the purview of function, obviously, of the commissioner, and indeed anything that relates to whatever the national commissioner may have done. Would that not be correct? To the extent that you say that constitutionally, because you say that you can act even operationally, you say that comes from the Constitution. So constitutionally you say you may engage in operational matters, correct? That's in your statement.
That is not to say practically go and constitute, decide who must get into the team, who must go and be based where. That is away from
No,
that.
no, Minister, no, please. I'm just saying, you say in your statement that the Constitution empowers you to play a role even in operational matters. Does your statement not say so?
It says so, but in italics.
Sorry?
It says so in italics, and I want to emphasize that it meant that you...
So you may all right, let me listen, yes. Let me listen, Minister, yes.
Yes. It was to say that while you have your constitutional duties and as identified by the Constitution, and the National Commissioner has his duties, but you don't operate with the Chinese wall between yourselves. It is the two sides of the same coin, as I indicated. Therefore, when exercising your duties, you are aware of how they will impact practically.
So you are saying then,
Operational,
Minister,
yes.
oh, sorry.
Yes. Operational.
Operation. So you are saying, I'm taking you back to your point about not having disbanded any other task team. So effectively, you are saying that even if a task team may be operating in the most criminal and horrendous manner, you would never ever disband it purely because it was set up by the National Commissioner.
No, I'm not saying that. There would be an engagement, there would be a discussion to say what is happening here, and let us discuss what we are getting in terms of what this task team is doing or what is happening around this task team, either because it gives us bad image or for whatever reason. Then we would engage, because that would be a task team established in terms of 11(2)D.
And if the National Commissioner dug in his heels, you would throw your hands up in the air and say, I'm not disbanding this task team because it was established by the National Commissioner.
Not at all. We would engage further.
No. Let's take you to the very end point where even you are satisfied that further engagement is not going to take you anywhere. So the National Commissioner is digging in his heels. You would throw your hands up in the air.
Not at all. It would mean that we are now incompatible. And because the National Commissioner is appointed by the President, I would go to the President to say we are becoming incompatible with the National Commissioner based on 1, 2, 3. And then he takes a decision.
I will leave it at that because I was tempted to say, and then a new National Commissioner is appointed, and that National Commissioner is happy with the existence of that task team, but I will leave it there. Because I just want to test this idea that you can only disband task teams that have been created by whom, by the way?
Yes, you can only...
Task teams created by whom?
Yes, you can only disband the task team as minister.
Created by whom?
Created by first.
Because you, the minister, cannot create any task teams.
No, I'm saying this one, as I say, was not created by the National Commissioner. It was created through the intervention of the President, then the task team, the interministerial, and then deciding that there should be a mechanism.
But that's what informed the decision. But
Yes.
The actual creation would have been in terms of statute, and where would that be? It would be in SAPS, and it must have been by the National Commissioner ultimately. It may have been informed by what the President said, that filtering down to the IMC, then that filtering down to the National Commissioner. So this must have been created by the National Commissioner as well. Because statutorily, there is no way that something called an interministerial committee could, as a matter of law, set up a task team. That is not possible.
They took a decision, commissioners, that there should be a mechanism in the form of a task team.
But the actual creation in law, the actual creation in law would have been by the National Commissioner.
Operationally. He would be operationalized.
But in law, Minister, it would have been created by the National Commissioner, in law. Yes, it would have, the creation would have been informed by the IMC decision, but in law, the actual creation would have been by the National Commissioner.
I see.
You see, what I'm testing here is this idea that in law, there are some task teams that are created by I don't know whom, and others that are created by the National Commissioner, and that those that are created by whomsoever, you are entitled to disband. But those that are created by the National Commissioner, you cannot disband. I don't understand that as a matter of law. Anyway, let me move on, Minister.
But I want to put just one point, that this one, NPKTT, the decision was through a directive of the executive side of government, and then it was operationalized. These other ones, National Commissioner can take a decision to establish and to disestablish. It has nothing to do with the directive of the executive.
I'll move on, Minister. You say the PKTT expenditure could not be justified. Did you compare it with the expenditure of other task teams?
No, we were dealing with the overall allocation of the budget, and I only complained about the management, the way we were managing the budget and allocating it. I did talk about less expenditure on detectives, less expenditure on other enablers. So it was not necessarily to be confined to a particular task team. It was spread in the whole organization to say we are not allocating the resources correctly here and here.
Minister, you have said the expenditure of the PKTT was not justified. I'm asking you a simple question. Did you compare that expenditure with the expenditure of other task teams? It's a simple question. Did you or did you not?
No, I didn't compare it with other task teams, but I do want to say the reason to remove the police inspectorate was exactly the same as that of the task team, the National Political Killings Task Team.
So, Minister, for all you know, the expenditure of other task teams could well have been significantly higher than that of the PKTT.
Come again?
For all you know, the expenditure of the other task teams could well have been significantly higher than that of the PKTT.
Or could be less.
But could be significantly higher also.
And could be significantly
No. Do you accept the possibility I'm positing to you, okay, Minister? Do you?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you ever assess the continued utility of any other task team, that is, of the more than 10 task teams, besides the PKTT? Did you ever assess the utility of the others, continued utility of the others?
Not exactly, but I'm saying it was in the form of assessing the organizational structures, all of them, and not necessarily one by one. Because even the PKTT, we didn't necessarily approach it as an individual team. We were approaching or defining the problem as that of, from the macro point of view, to say, what is it that we need to do with the structure? What do we need to do with the systems and so on? And as things came, we were then taking decisions as we reflected on what we saw as we were looking at the organization. That is how the inspectorate came in the form of discussion. It was not because we had an agenda item on any day saying, police inspectorate, we are going to be discussing it. It arose in our assessment as we were doing our work. And it came to our attention that there is police inspectorate. And by the way, what is it in the context of optimizing our budget? And later, by the way, what does NPKTT mean in the process of optimizing? And I'm sure there would have been any other that would have come as we process our thinking in terms of optimizing our budget.
Last question, Minister. I'm not altogether sure that the last answer answered my question, but I will not press. Last question. Why was the PKTT the first task team to be disbanded? In fact, first and only to be disbanded. But my focus is more on first. Why was it the first task team to be disbanded?
Now, I've indicated, Commissioner, that the first to be disbanded was not even a task team. It was a unit.
I said earlier, let's forget about the inspectorate, which you have said was a unit. I'm talking task teams, Minister.
Yes.
Why did you pick on the PKTT to be the first and only thus far, actually, victim of disbandment?
Now, we have stated the reasons that in our discussion, our assessment, our attention got caught by PKTT, and in view of us discussing the structure in relation to murder and robbery and all of the history that we have been indicating. And there is no other task team that fell in that particular category as we were discussing. PKTT had been in almost 7 years and there was impact on the budget and other related matters. So it came. If there was any other task team that came, and I'm sure there would have been another that would have come later on, but it was this one that caught our attention, and we then discussed it.
Minister, when did, I know I said last question,
Yes.
I hope this will be the last. When did the thought that I must disband the PKTT first strike you?
It was 29, 30, 31. On those days when I was no longer moving up and down, I was just sitting and reflecting on what we had been doing in the last 5 months. And I picked up what I thought were the most important things, especially by the end of the 6 months, and things that would have needed to focus on at the beginning of the year, and which had a lot of impact on crime. And we then said, I identified those 3. But it was just a process that came when I sat down, 29, 30, 31.
Minister, why I'm asking you that is because the very day before, the first one of the 3 days that you mentioned, the 29th. So the very day before, the 28th of November 2024, December 2024, you were at a funeral, I think it was in Mpangeni, together with the National Commissioner of Police. And after the funeral, you wished each other well for the end of the year and so on. And you do not for a minute say to the National Commissioner, I am thinking of, in fact, I have decided to disband the PKTT. And starting tomorrow, I'm actually going to work on my document in that regard. But I know what your answer will be. Your answer is going to be, no, Commissioner. You are talking about the 28th, and the thought struck me only on the 29th. I was going to say to you, it is very strange that you did not mention the disbandment to the National Commissioner on the 28th. But I will not suggest it because you say you were suddenly struck by this thought on the 29th. I will leave it at that. But I find it very strange that on something so important, with the sort of implications that you yourself realized, because you say you did not expect it, even though you said immediately, you did not expect it to happen there and there, on something so important with such implications that you would only have thought of it within 3 days of the issuance of your letter. So you think now and you act very quickly within 3 days. Poof, you've decided on an issue that is that important with all of these implications.